Hey everybody, what is going on? This is Scott Garber back in the saddle of the Profluent Sports Podcast, where we are highlighting founders, investors, executives across the sports business landscape. Today, we're excited to welcome our guest to the screen, co-founder of TickPick, Brett Goldberg, and founder of Memento, recently acquired by TickPick, John Brennan. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. How are we doing today?
Doing great.
Great. Thank you for having us. Excited to be here.
Love it. We're excited for you guys to be here. A lot of exciting things to unpack as we learn about TickPick, the recent acquisition, the future of where the space is going. But as you regular listeners know, it's only important if we understand the gentlemen that are building this, the vision that they had before we get into the fun nuts and bolts of what they built and where they're going. So let's go ahead, Brett. We're going to come right to you. Bring a little energy. Give us a little pizzazz. Who is Brett Goldberg? What is TickPick? And let's dive right into it.
So we started TickPick in 2011. If I'm real blunt, we had our eyes on StubHub. We've been studying the space. We thought there was a huge opportunity. They're making 25% in transaction fees. It was like an organized Craigslist is the way I think about it. And the way we were thinking about it is making it algorithmically driven and helping consumers figure out which tickets they should buy and trying to be the good guy in the ticket space. So, still today, 15 years later, I don't really think there's a great guy in the space. I think we represent the consumer and the fan who's actually going. So we were the ones who started all-in ticket pricing from the start. We've always shown the all-in price. We've driven down costs. So we're making 14 or 15% on a sale where our competitors are making 20%. We still drive the algorithm. We're mobile first. And so we stand for the fan.
Which is so needed, as we continue to look at not just sport, but live entertainment across the board. There's an over-index and there's a fatigue right now with paying all of these fees. So I'm excited to get under the hood and learn from somebody that's been doing it for longer than a cup of coffee. So John, give us a little insight to Memento, what you built, and then we'll dive into how your guys' worlds came together.
Yeah, of course. Started the company at the end of 2021. And actually what we set out to build is not the Memento as fans know it today. It's not the Memento that TickPick acquired. It was a business in sports, but actually in game-worn memorabilia. And we ended up pivoting in early 2023 to the Memento people know today, which is really for fans who go to a lot of live events, pro sports, college sports, concerts, to track their attendance at those events, all the photos, videos they've taken, the friends they've went with. And we express data in really interesting ways. So, despite me rocking my Knicks hat today and every day of this playoff run, like it's a playoff beard, unfortunately, I know that my attendance, thanks to Memento, when I am in the building at the Garden, we tend to lose. Most recently, that was game 3 against Atlanta. We lost by 1. Last year, I went to one playoff game. It was the Halliburton shot off the iron that pushed us to overtime and we lost. And the year before that, it was Tyrese Maxey 4-point play. So I am 0 for 3 at home in the playoffs. You can see how passionate I am about the Knicks, but those are the kind of insights that we surface. So, is there a Jets fan out there on Memento who has a winning record? Not to continue to bring down, New York sports, of which I'm a New York sports fan. But it's basically, to talk about where the idea came from. I went to the World Cup final in 2022 in Doha, Qatar. I'm a huge soccer fan. I'm a huge Lionel Messi fan. And on the plane ride home, remember this World Cup was in December, so December 2022. We knew we were pivoting the business. We had a couple different ideas. And I thought to myself, that was one of the greatest moments of my life, right? Like sports fandom or music. So many of these live events truly represent some of the greatest memories that people have, either as kids and then later as adults. And on the plane home, I'm looking at Instagram stories and the in-flight Wi-Fi, and everybody's posting Spotify Wrapped. What did I listen to this past year? I'm also using an app, I got to give them a plug, called Flighty. So for those listeners who are on the plane a lot, highly recommend downloading Flighty. And with Flighty, I could see that I had taken, 46 flights that year and flown around the world 3.5 times if you summed up all the miles. And meanwhile, I'm leaving this event. All I have is this, digital ticket on my phone that looks no more special than the digital ticket to get into a local show in my backyard, because we know physical tickets are gone. and kind of all of those things happening at once. I said to myself, this is such a big part of my identity. I've been to hundreds of events. Sports is a big passion of mine, but I can't tell you how many times I've seen Lionel Messi play, how many times I've seen Jalen Brunson play, how many baseball games did I go to when I was a teenager. So it was really, admittedly, like this simple insight led to, can we build something beautiful and engaging that feels like a curated album, really from like your camera roll into its own experience, with all the games and shows and photos and videos and friends and stats for everything you've ever been to where you punched a ticket. So that's where Memento came from. I think 20 million mementos later, 20 million tickets turned into these interactive memories later, we landed at TickPick.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. So neat. And again, I love understanding, sort of where the journey started and then understanding how the market sort of, helped evolve it. And now ultimately watching these two entities come together. I want to touch on sort of the evolution of fandom, but I'm going to come to you and then this will naturally dovetail, I think, into the acquisition. But, over the decades that you've built, ticketing has always sort of been focused on the buyer, not the attendee. Talk to me about like the distinction there as we think about just a transaction versus understanding who's buying that, who's in the building, and then what the long tail looks like as we look at the evolution of the ticketing space.
Yeah, interesting question. I think starting 2011 and then launching and we're live at 12 and we were starting to get a mobile website. And then it was very clear that there was this app movement happening. Looking back now, it's like super clear. But at the time, it's like, do you really need to go rebuild the website? Is this app going to be sticky? Are people going to use the apps? So we invested heavily and made that bet. And so that's just kind of where consumers were living. And the way I think about it, like the way Chris and I both have always thought about it is like, we're building something that we want to use. So when we're launching new products, new features, is like, is this something I'm going to use? Is this how I shop for tickets? And that's what I obsess over. So like we're in the process of updating things right now and I'm going through the buying experience. Like, does this help me figure out which ticket I should buy? If you're going to a Knicks game, there's potentially 20,000 seats. They're all trading at a different price. And it is uber complex and hard to decide. It's like, is that extra $20 worth the 3-row step up? And that is and that's just like one, but you've got to think through that on 50 different layers. And every time you're looking, you're trying to solve that in your brain, at least me as a consumer. So I think that's like the way and the lens I constantly think about it is like, how am I helping that consumer try to figure out which ticket they should buy? Is it worth spending more money? Is it not worth spending more money? And we're trying to take our bias out. Obviously, we do better the more you spend, but is it worth the consumer spending that? And are you going to get more, well, I'll call it utils, for spending up? And so now over the years, we've built out different ways to shop. So you could be a premium shopper, you could just be looking for the best deal, or you could be looking for the cheapest seats. Even if you're looking for the cheapest seats, it may not be, if it's $5 more to be 5 rows up in the rafters, like it may be worth it. So that's part of the way I think about just like, how do you improve that consumer experience? You had a lot of multi-piece questions there. Anything else you want me to drive into?
No. I mean, look at, I think I'm going to take that and I'm going to stick with you and then John will come back up. But, our audience is full of innovators and founders and then capital, right? And so there's always this unique moment of like, we're growing this baby, but once we start to take in capital, we're in the business of exits. And so, Brett, I'm curious, as you were surveying the landscape, what was it about Memento that stuck out to you, that ultimately made you guys press forward with John and start to bring them under the umbrella? Always, I think these are unique kernels that we can get. Sometimes we read the press release, we don't always get the insight there, but I'm curious from your lens, what was ultimately some of the decision factors that made you hit yes?
For me, it was like the numbers and the data, actually, when we looked at it. And it was seeing that you had numerous hundreds of thousands of people that were putting in 30 to 40 events that they've been to. Like I'm a diehard fan to some degree, and I even would not do that. So like they have found this niche, and it's bigger than just a niche, because a niche could be 1,000, 10,000. They have found some form of scale of people that are diehard fans, whether it's soccer, music, sports, all of the above, and they want to track that. The live events they've been to, create pictures, upload pictures, put in their seat and location, and not do it once, twice, 3 times, but on average doing it 38 times. That to me was like the light bulb.
Wow. And John, I'm going to come and draft off of that, right? Before we get to like, why TickPick? Give me a little insight. The evolution of the fan is happening in real time, but fandom covers, my grandpa all the way down to my young kiddos. Like, who is your target user that is using Memento and on average putting in 38 different experiences and really catalyzing that moment or capturing that moment digitally? Who is the core ICP of Memento?
Yeah. Well, look, this is going to come across as a bit of a cop-out answer, but we have users spanning from, teenagers who are getting their first smartphone all the way up to senior citizens in their 70s and 80s. And we know that because they've reached out to us to tell us how much they love the app. One family in mind is a mother who in Oklahoma City who runs the account for her son who doesn't yet have a phone, but it's his name. She does it with him after every Oklahoma City Thunder game, uploads the photo they took at the game. That was just one of the people who reached out to us to say how much they love being able to like hold on to and then reflect on these memories. And then we had another, a woman, again, self-described senior citizen, I think he's 75, 76 years old, who emailed us and said, this is one of the only non-pre-downloaded Apple apps that I have and I use regularly. I've gone back and added all of the Boston Red Sox games that I went to in the 70s, 80s, 90s. And that's sports. Like that's
Wow.
sports, that's music. It's really timeless. Some of my greatest memories, again, are games I've been to in my mid 30s, the last couple of years. Some of my most vivid childhood memories are for me, those, epic Yankee teams of the late 90s and early 2000s. So I think because live entertainment is timeless and durable, look at all the success it's having in the age of AI and algorithms driving everything we look at on our screens, that allows us to capture a market everywhere from 16 years old to 80 and beyond.
Yeah.
So that's been, it's not like we're just really heavy Gen Z or really heavy millennial. We really have struck a chord with all age and demos.
It's so interesting. I think that education is one of the biggest barriers right now in how a fan should engage with an app, should engage with a ticketing platform, should engage with the team. And so to be able to get over that hump and really span that, sitting in this seat, we typically hear, hey, it skews millennial and younger because they're digital natives and that's how we typically engage. But to hear that wide spectrum is so encouraging. But I got to ask, John, because now over the last 5 years you've been building, maybe I'll call you a fan expert, right? You get to really understand the behavior of these fans. I'm curious, when you think about teams, leagues, artists, brands, what should they be thinking about differently from a fan identity moving forward that you've been able to sort of bubble up with all of the users you have on your platform?
Yeah, look, I think, plugging us, obviously.
As you should.
Yeah, one of the most interesting things that we could do that we haven't done is, we could tell, let's say the New York Knicks, here are all of the people on the app that have been to Knicks games, right? Here's the person that goes to 30 plus games a year, probably a season ticket holder, right? They're sitting in the same seat. We have that information as well. Here's the person who appears, went to 2 games 3 years ago, 5 games last year, 9 games this year. Like, what is that trend telling you? And just generally this idea of like verified attendance, like who is actually showing up? Who are your diehard fans who already has season tickets? Who's clearly starting to express more and more interest in the team every year? Who's the fan that, added a memento for a Knicks game that they're going to in 2 weeks and they've never added a Knicks memento before? That means it's going to be their first experience at the Garden. Is there anything that you could do as a team to make that, uniquely special, whether it's inside of our app or, in the venue itself? So I just think this, we've never done anything really interesting like that with our data, but it exists. And I think we're in one of the most unique positions to partner with teams to take advantage of that. And, people hear like fan data, and if there's any actual fans of the app listening to this and get nervous about the ways we might use their data, the beautiful thing about this is we'd be using it in a way that is actually delivering value to you as a fan. Like, can the Knicks give you a surprise and delight moment because you've been to 15 NBA arenas. You're clearly a big NBA fan, but you've never been to the Garden. This is going to be your first time in 2 weeks. What can the team do for you to just make it a little more special? So will we go in that direction? Time will tell, but definitely something that is possible for us. We just have an unbelievably unique set of data that has the emotional bit tied to it.
Absolutely. And we're going to go sort of like back into the conversation into what you alluded to there. John, real quick, I'm going to take a side quest here.
Yeah, love side quests. Everybody should be side questing, Scott.
I mean, look at you plugged another company, so Flighty, like we're side questing already.
Yes, love Flighty.
John, let me ask you this, man. And first, congratulations on the acquisition. But speaking to founders that are building businesses, as you reflect back while it's still fresh and top of mind, what advice or nugget would you give to a founder as they're going through the acquisition process?
Yeah, I think a couple things. It's if you decide you want to be acquired or you want to go that path, perhaps the most obvious is it's always going to take longer than you think. And you should want that. Like you shouldn't want to make contact with somebody and close in 30 days or 60 days or even 90 days. Because at the end of the day, at least for me, the exit is not the finish line. It's, my team and I are still here to build this. And now with 15 years of experience behind us, millions, and I don't know the number, Brett, millions and millions, tens of millions of tickets sold, like the opportunity for us to achieve real scale and be an app that every fan who goes to live events not only knows about, but uses regularly, like that's a once in a career opportunity. So the exit's not the finish line. It's to say, like, I'm now marrying Brett and Chris. Do they really understand what we're building? And are they really going to let us run with the roadmap? And are they going to support us with the 15 years of experience, the scale that they've already achieved? So yeah, take your time really getting to know the people who are interested in your business. And I first met Brett and Chris we closed. It was over a year before that I first met them. And the best sign was they downloaded the app organically. I think somebody in the office was talking about it and they reached out and said, hey, we love what you're building. We would just love to chat. We're in live events, you're in live events. And that's how the conversation started.
I think it's beautiful to hear. And, there's a lot of nuggets, but like you said, it's not the finish line. It's not the destination. It's the next level up. Right. And so it's, I think there's a human alignment, there's a business alignment. And then, Brett, like I'm going to come back down to you, right? Like, I mean, you guys, it seems like it's been a pretty linear trajectory with TickPick. And now with this current acquisition, how does this iterate or amplify the long-term vision beyond ticketing as you guys look to the future of where the platform's going?
It's interesting, some of the things that JB was talking about, because those are some of the things that we've talked about. So I think the beauty is it opens up different doors. And we have a way to work with teams. We work with a handful of the NFL teams directly as a partner. Going down the data side could be interesting. I don't think it's not like a today thing, but it certainly is an interesting conversation, could open up different doors there. I've also thought about it from the artist side. So having fan clubs, and we now have and validate, this person has been to 10 John Mayer concerts, like maybe they should get early access. So it deepens the amount of data that we're sitting on and opens up doors and opportunities. So I think that's the part that's very interesting. And then the other piece, like, we are a transactional business, even though we're trying to build a brand. We are ultimately the connector of people going to live events. So we are constantly trying to think about how do we try to circle around that consumer and serve them and give them more things pre-event, post-event. And so this is the solve for the post-event and sometimes the pre-event too.
No, it's really neat to understand the relationship, and again, like there's a lot of noise in this space, right? And so I'm curious, from the ticketing side, we're watching teams start to lean in and try to put their arms around it and own this ecosystem. Brett, I'm going to start with you, and then John, come up to your side. But like, give us industry trends, Brett. Like, where do you see, like, what's got you excited about where the industry is evolving? And then what are some things that, like, maybe as the layman ticket purchaser, we wouldn't really know that that's happening in the underbelly there?
I think the beauty as a marketplace is, JB talked about Knicks and Jets and concerts. So for a sports team, you're only able to serve one fandom. And that's the beauty as a marketplace, that you're able to serve all of those fandoms under one roof. And so you get used to the way you buy and sell and having an account and building that trust. So I think that's where like marketplaces thrive, is that we can sell, whether it's for New York or California or Texas, we have access to tickets and supply where it's going. I think your point on pricing, particularly, we're in New York, and then what gets the media's attention is the high pricing. No one's talking about the playoffs that you can get into that are less than $100. So outside some of the coasts, there still is massive like there is access and availability at reasonable prices. Teams like Knicks and Lakers, that's not really there. And I think it's kind of understandable. You probably have over 1 million people that'd be willing to go to a Knicks game.
Yeah.
So to get into a playoff game for below $400, probably not happening. And I don't think there's any like rules, regulation, like that. That's the market demand. So I think that's the part that's a little bit hard, is just live events are so in demand that they do cost a lot. You can go to a Mets game for under $10 right now if you want to, though. So,
the poor Mets, but that is a true statement. No, that's that I think it's really good insight, right? And it's always nice to glean from experts that are in this space every day. And I'm going to come back, Brett, and sort of touch on emerging leagues and like where the sporting landscape is going. We focus so much on the big four, but John, I want to come up to you. And a lot of Memento seems to be built in the digital space right now, and in the age of AI and digital capture, we sort of see a swing back, just like live experiences, to some of the nostalgic. I want the physical ticket. I want to be able to hang this on the wall. I'm curious, how do you leverage everything that you capture digitally? And is there a bridge to the physical world? How do you serve sort of the trend of where that's going?
Yeah, well, excuse me, Scott, I'll tell you, you can't see because my background's blurred, but I have a Pelican case back here with a couple dozen slabbed ticket stubs that I've collected over the years. Some games I've been to, some represent debuts or other milestones for players or teams that I just love. So definitely, I'm a collector, cards, tickets, etc. So I think a lot about that relationship between a fan and then something real, tactile that you can hold in your hand. And, if you've been on Memento, if you've seen what a Memento is, right? It's this kind of beautiful, custom to the team or artist, digital ticket stub, if you will, that is your receipt of attendance. It can be customized with a photo. We actually just released a feature about a month ago called Skins. One of the skins is inspired by a PSA slab. So if you go to a game and you don't want to use like the original Memento kind of skeleton, you can swipe almost like an Instagram filter and kind of commemorate your game in that slab. So, we're doing everything digital right now. A lot of people are probably thinking this like, oh, what if I could print, my Memento and have that at home as like a collectible that's really just unique to me, right? No resale value, but just kind of gives you that feeling of nostalgia. I like many people, I kept every stub for every game I ever went to before they went away.
Yep.
So certainly something we've thought a lot about. Will we do it? Maybe. There's so much white space in front of us to continue building that I can't say for sure if we'll get around to it, but definitely something that I'm very intrigued by and think we do very well.
No, and again, go ahead, Brett.
One thing I got to plug, just as a Memento user. So I went to this Raya concert, and afterwards you could then see all the other people who went to it, and you could see the pictures they're posting. And this has always been like a dream as me as like a fan, which is like, why do I need to have my phone out? Like everyone's out here with their phones. Like, can't I just get the person next to me's pictures? And so after I was able to go and look through, one is cool to see like these other people who are Memento users, so you feel this connection. And then I get to see all their pictures and videos. So I did the same thing for the Knicks as well. But it's just this community feel and vibe was very interesting as a user.
I'm going to go off the cuff here. John, coming back to you with so many users, and then the way Brett just described it, it almost has a community feel to it, right? Like, and now I feel like, if I go to the show and I don't post, I'm missing out, or if I don't go check it out. Brett, like, how do you leverage that community element from a ticketing standpoint? Like, are you able to go internal to Memento users and offer special discounts and reward them for using the engagement side of what you're doing? Curious, like sort of the relationship between the two, as Memento, when I started this conversation, I thought about it more as a platform, and I'm learning it's more of a community. Curious how you you guys think about that internal?
JB's heard me say this so many times, but like because TickPick is so transactional focused, I really don't care about Memento trying to figure out how to make like TickPick better. I just want Memento to be a great product. And it's so amazing to have something that you're not trying to stuff down someone's throat to buy and make a transaction. So I just want something that takes off, right? So like
Yeah.
just build something that people want to use. We're gonna be able to get TickPick in there, and you're gonna know TickPick owns it. So the sell will be very natural, but you just got to build something that people want to use.
Yeah, super cool.
Yeah,
John, anything to add to that?
No, I mean, just the kind of leaning into the community piece of it has been something we've only started to surface in the product recently, because we have gotten to appropriate scale. Depending on the league or artist, I mean, at this point, Scott, any event you go to, there's going to be at least 100 people, probably hundreds, if not over 1,000, using Memento in the crowd. So the last event I went to was 2 weeks ago. I was in London for 24 hours, went to Arsenal's Champions League semifinal game against Atletico Madrid. They won 1-0. I hadn't even looked until now, but there were 2,124 people at the Emirates who added that Memento and uploaded their own photos and videos. So as I start to scroll, it's just endless. Like the amount of content I can see from all the different perspectives, somebody in the first row, somebody in the last row, behind the goal, behind the bench. Yeah, surfacing that like community view around these events is new as of a month ago.
Wow.
I started it wasn't my very first job, but more or less the first job I stayed at for a long time was at Snapchat from 2014 to 2018. I worked in sports. We debuted a product called Our Story, where we were stitching together all the UGC from events. It was way before, it's crazy to think, but video was like what we know it today on mobile. Now it's everywhere. It's every app. But I remember waking up in my Alphabet City shoebox apartment and watching the 2014 World Cup Our Story from all around Brazil and thinking, this is one of the coolest things I've ever seen on my phone, period, full stop. This is before I worked at Snapchat.
Yeah.
Now, it inspired part of this product, being able to even be a voyeur. It's like I may not have been at the game on Sunday in Philly where we swept the Sixers at MSG East in downtown Philadelphia, but I could go to that event in the app and I could see all the photos of the Knicks fan takeover. Apologies to all the Philadelphia listeners. But,
You're not sorry, John.
TickPick is a big supporter. TickPick's a big supporter of Philadelphia. Eagles are an official partner.
I'm just teasing.
They're my second team.
We're allowed to have personal and professional biases here. But no, John, I think that's so cool. And to watch, I think as humans, we are craving to belong to a community that's bigger than ourselves. That's where fulfillment comes in. And sport has always been that one of those binding agents. It's just so neat that it doesn't have to necessarily come from me being in the stadium to feel like I'm amongst other folks that, have the propensity to share, to buy tickets from a centralized place, and ultimately create this 360 experience where I feel like I can get everything that I'm looking for from sport beyond just wearing a jersey and showing up at a game. And gentlemen, it feels like that's truly what you guys are starting to stitch together here. As we turn the corner, I got one more question and then a fun rapid fire question to bring us home. As we got World Cup around the corner, we're less than a month away now. What is your guys' strategy as you guys, are in the infancy of bringing this to life? Are you capitalizing on this moment with Memento and TickPick to take advantage of the globe looking at North America? Either of you guys feel free to chime in.
Yeah, I'm happy to start. I'm a huge soccer fan. You've probably noticed I found a way to bring up soccer quite a bit during this recording. All sports, New York sports, but also soccer. So went to the 2018 World Cup, 2022 World Cup. Obviously, I'll go to this World Cup. And it's a really unique opportunity for Memento because when we first launched, we didn't just do, even as an American company based here in the US, we didn't just do NBA, WNBA, MLB, NFL, et cetera, everything that, we know and love in the US. We leaned heavily from the jump into soccer as well. So MLS, NWSL, but also the Premier League, the Champions League, being able to add World Cups. And because of that, we're very popular with soccer fans. We hit #1 in the UK App Store multiple times over the last couple of years. That's why there were over almost 2,200 people at the Emirates in London last week using the app. It's an unbelievably unique opportunity for us that all of those users from all over the world who are on Memento are going to be coming to the United States. Some of them maybe for the first time in their lives, but probably most of them going to a live event in the United States for the first time. So, when you think about, I know Brett said Momentos, he just wants Memento to be a cool product. It'll be obvious the way it can help TickPick. Like, this is a way, to help TickPick. We have all these people coming over, like, where do I buy a ticket? How do I get the best prices? Who can I trust? So really low-hanging opportunity there. And then, we are going to do a couple fun things with the product around the World Cup to commemorate that event in particular, because those are the events that for a lot of people watching their country play on the biggest stage, those are the memories worth revisiting year after year, even decades later. And I'm such a romantic about sports. I think you would see that if you played around with the product, anybody who's listening who hasn't. And that's why we built it. So that if you're 21 years old and you go to your first World Cup game this summer, in 20 years, you may have kids and you're able to very easily go back and say like, oh yeah, here's my video of, Lamine Yamal's goal in Atlanta. So
How cool. Brett, anything to add to that, in regard to the World Cup and excitement, opportunities that you see coming down the pike?
I just think for us as a marketplace, we're the low cost provider. So whether someone wants to go, we're the place to get the best price tickets. Ours is a bit more straightforward.
Yep.
I leave the emotional connection to JB.
and he delivers a punch. Guys, this has been so fun to learn, both about the business, the market, and where you guys are taking it. I'm going to leave it with a question. Either of you feel free to chime in, but in one sentence, what does the future fan look like?
I don't think it's that different. I think that's the beauty of it. I think that's why there's so much interest in sports in this world where so much is changing. This is probably, yes, I get that ticketing will change and the way you buy them, but the fan itself, I don't know is going to change that much in 10 to 20 years.
Ooh, John?
Yeah, I think it's potentially a hot take there from Brett that I totally agree with. And that's what makes live events, sports, what I know best, so unique. Because again, think about where we are today with AI relative to, 3 years ago when these frontier labs first put out the first version of their models. AI has absolutely, probably definitely impacted your life at work, even your life at home, your health. I mean, there's all these ways that we're using these tools now, but it has not changed the way that I feel when I get to my seat at the Garden or the Emirates or Yankee Stadium. And, that feeling I had when I was, 12, 13 years old, watching Aaron Boone hit that home run and, bottom of the 11th or 12th in Game 7. That would be the same feeling today if it was Aaron Judge and I'm in the stadium. And that will be true in 20 years. And that's why live events are so unbelievably durable. We're only going to value them more. They're only going to be looked at as more of a luxury, even if the ticket was only $10. I think that's why we continue, Brett and I both, to want to be in this space and be so bullish in this space, because we'll be more informed than ever, right? The tools will just keep getting better, advanced stats, the accessibility for us as fans and armchair pundits and experts. But once you get in the building, got to get the ball. Human beings got to get the ball through the hoop, got to get the ball in the goal. And that's why sports are the best. Same with music.
I dropped the mic. We continue to ask ourselves what makes us human, and sport, for at least the time being, is one of those grounding moments that makes us human. And, it's so neat to sit on this side of the fence and get to learn and be a student of the game. So, from Profluence, gentlemen, thank you for everything that you guys are doing to push this space forward. Continue to elevate the experience for all constituents and stakeholders. And John, I'm going to ask a fun question as we wind this thing down, but maybe we can take a screenshot and get a memento of this podcast recording, because I would love for that to be my first one, as I'm going to go download the app and become an avid user as I travel the world and go to sporting events. But in all seriousness, guys, you're going to take us home. John, Brett, give us a subtle plug if people want to go ahead and buy tickets on TickPick, if they want to start making mementos. What is the best way to do so? And we're going to close it on that.
Yeah, download TickPick app.
Be easy. John, same thing. We just got to download the app. Anything fun plug-wise on Memento?
Download Memento. And I promise, the way that I sit on your couch watching a game, adding your events in the background, it's fun, it's nostalgic, it's emotional. If you love live sports, live music, I would be shocked if you don't like it.
Well, listen, we look forward to following your journey, posting future mementos, and thank you again, guys, for everything you're doing.
Thanks, Scott. Appreciate the
Thank you.